These were the early days in what was to become one of Pietermaritzburg's engineering firms. It was the culmination of a dream by one man, Ronnie Chetty. He always knew that one day he would become an engineer.
There was at school when we were doing a course called Right Living that time, and they give you all the jobs that are listed there and how much they pay and all that. So I looked at a job called fitting and turning, and I said that was the highest paid trade. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when the teacher asked me, we were asking us, what are you going to do? People said to be policemen, bricklayers, this, that. And she came to me and I said I want to be a fitter and turner. And she asked me, what's a fitter and turner? I said, I don't know. She said, then why you want to be a fitter and turner? I said, it's the highest paid job. It's the highest paid trade. I say like, yeah. And then we were lucky, we were fortunate. There was a company called Maritzburg Engineering, owned by a Swiss called Eugene Eggy. And he was the only person at that time taking on apprentices, right? So we applied and I was accepted to do an apprenticeship as a fitter and turner, right? I served my apprenticeship at Maritzburg Engineering. I'm very grateful to him. But in the 3.5 years I was there, I only worked a lathe for 2 months and I worked a milling machine for about 3 months in 3.5 years. Most of the time we were, for the first 3 months, picking up steel in the yard, and then we're assisting a boiler maker. We were used more as laborers than anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the most important thing is we knew that when we finished, we are going to be qualified fitters and turners.
The story of how Ronnie began his business is as inspiring as it is indicative of the difficult circumstances non-whites had to endure in apartheid South Africa.
One day I looked at the newspaper and I found out they were selling a drilling machine at a company called CB Engineering in Pietermaritzburg. So I went in there and I spoke to a gentleman called Mr. George Burnside. He was an old white gentleman that used to run Pietermaritzburg Engineering, and he was also a partner with CB Engineering. And he spoke to me and he asked me why I want to buy the drill and what are my intentions and what I want to do. And after about half an hour, he said to me, don't worry about this drill. Come and see me on Monday morning. I want to see you at 10 o'clock. When I got there on Monday at 10 o'clock, he said, Mr. Chetty, jump in my car. He had a big green Mercedes 250 SE, I think it was. And we drove up the road, down Berg Street, at the corner of Berg and Commercial Road. There was a company called Stanik that was at the corner. So we got up to Stanik, and as we entered, I noticed that everybody was greeting, hello Mr. Burnside, how are you Mr. Burnside? So then I realized he must be quite an influential person. Then he asked to see the credit manager, Mr. Keith Hewitt, I remember quite clearly. And all he said to Keith was, Keith, this is Mr. Chetty. He wants to buy some machines. Give him the loan and I will be the guarantor.
The dream of opening up shop then became a reality, but he was operating at the height of a recession in 1984. The cost of acquiring machinery was also quite prohibitive, but these were obstacles that were eventually overcome.
At that time, I started with one lathe and one milling machine, right? And what 2 weeks later, my ex-boss from Everyday Cables rocks up at the factory with his toolbox. And he says to me, Ronnie, I think I'd rather work for you. I think you will take care of me. And I said, Bob, but I can't pay you. He said, no, don't worry. We'll work something out. And together with Bob and I, we managed to build the business. We managed to grow the business. We started off doing work with tractors and trucks, and then it was difficult. It was very, very difficult getting into big companies at that time, because first of all I was not white, and secondly we were a new business at that time. In 1984, it was the worst during the Depression, and we said to ourselves, if we can survive the next 2 years, we'll be fine. And that's what was our intention, just to survive.
And survive they did. Today, Maritzburg Engineering has made a name for itself for its workmanship and constant reinvention.
And we kept repositioning our business. For example, a few years later, we were one of the first companies to purchase a CNC turning center as a lathe, a CNC lathe, where we then had an upper hand on most of the small businesses, where we could produce an excellent quality of work much quicker and at a better price than anybody else. At that time, the fallacy was CNC machines were bought to do large quantities of work, right? But we realized if we can program that machine as quick as possible, right, then we could do small batch work.
There is another thing that Ronnie is more passionate about than his business: training and skills development. He is one of a few firms that runs its own artisan apprenticeship program.
In Pietermaritzburg, there are over 100 small engineering companies, right? And we believe that we strive to be at the top. We strive to be at the top, right? And how do you go to the top? We make sure we have the best machines, we make sure we have the best equipment, we make sure we have the best workers. Now, how do you get the best workers? In all the years we've been in business, we never employed an artisan. There's not an artisan turner yet. Everybody who works for us has been trained by us.
Andile Kwabaza is a turner machinist apprentice. Like Ronnie, he too is passionate about his chosen trade.
It's an interesting field. You learn things every day. Every day I get up in the morning, I come to work and I learn. It's not a job whereby you know what you're going to do in the morning. Every morning I come here to get here to work, and I don't know what I'm going to do today. It's something new. Every day it's something new. Engineering is such a big field and you can never cover it. Every day is a new experience. You can be qualified, you can have the top degrees, but every day you learn. That's the best thing about engineering. That's why I chose engineering.
Maritzburg Engineering is yet another success story of businesses thriving in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands.
The region we are situated is conducive to business because we are in the Midlands. We're not far from Newcastle. We do work for Newcastle, we do work for Greytown, we do work for Kranscorp, we do work for Eston, we do work for Durban, we do work for Richards Bay, and so I'm trying to say. So the region we are in, we are not far from the big industry, you know what I'm trying to say.